Turn the mic up. Can't believe it's already past 7 o'clock on this Monday morning. I'm Greg Bishop. It is Springfield's Morning News. You can always chime in live and local, 217-629-7970. That's the phone number. And I want to hear from you now about recent polling data that suggests Governor J.B. Pritzker's in the lead in a three-way race. And a vast majority of Democrats want to see Pritzker head towards the White House if President Joe Biden decides not to run. So what do you think about this? 217-629-7970. That's the phone number here on WMAY. Let's hear from you. You can also email bishoponair@gmail.com, or you can find me on social media. Just search Bishop on Air. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we can connect that way. So what do you think? All right, so recent polling highlights where political sentiments are, and it looks at, of course, the November election, which is coming up in just a handful of months, but it shows that Governor J.B. Pritzker has a lead over Republican challenger Darren Bailey in the race for governor. Now, the poll consisted of 1,200 registered voters in Illinois, was done by Victory Research. The polling data suggests that Pritzker has a 10-point lead over Bailey, the Republican state senator, with the incumbent garnering 49% of the vote. Rod McCullough, he's the owner of Victory Research, and he said that past elections could tell a little bit of a different story here, especially in Illinois.
While it has a well-deserved reputation of being a blue state, doesn't always act that way in off-year elections. In the last two off-year elections with a Democrat in the White House, the Republicans did very well.
Now, the governor has received a boost in national significance because of his stance on abortion and gun control. However, McCullough said it might not mean as much for the undecided voters, and I think this is pretty telling because the undecided voters are going to be those voters who cross over or who are independents, who are looking for a variety of different things, and he kind of lays out their sentiments.
Among those undecided voters, and there were 10% undecided, very few, less than 10% of those chose either abortion or gun. They were much more focused on inflation, energy prices, and crime.
And we see that inflation is leading the polls elsewhere as well. But also another indication of this polling data that Victory Research put together, it shows that vast majority of Democrats want Governor Pritzker to run for president if indeed President Joe Biden were not going to run again. Here is a little bit of that indication here.
He would campaign on all the things that the Democrats talk about nationally as far as their agenda goes. He accomplished, passed it through the legislature, for better or worse, on a state level. And that's what he would run on.
And he'd have that as his backing if he was to seek higher office.
Criminal justice reform, no cash bail. Whatever anybody else thinks about it, progressive primary voters love that stuff. More health care, the Green New Deal, although I don't think the governor calls it that.
But when it comes to Republican sentiments, they're not on board with the idea of Pritzker running for office now as governor, but they want him out of the state. So actually nearly 90% of Republicans want Pritzker to run for president and to leave the state of Illinois. What do you think about this polling data? Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Well, I think most of this polling data comes out of these leftist media outlets. I really don't trust them, most of what they say. As for that one fellow saying that Illinois is a blue state, look at the map. It's mainly red. The only place in Illinois is blue is Chicago, maybe East St. Louis. I think with the economy the way it is, I think Bailey's got a good chance of winning because of the economy going down the drain.
Well, when you talk about where the blue is in the state, it's the highly dense urban areas, and that's where the population is.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people outside. That's the problem. Like it's like New York or California. You have the tyranny of the majority. A lot of rural areas don't exactly believe in Mr. Pritzker, and I could hardly see voting for him for president.
Yeah, and I think in Illinois and states, we're a constitutional republic that has many democracies all across the country. Each state is its own democracy, and that's how it operates. Now, there could be a system set up to allow for, something similar to the U.S. Senate, where each state regardless of population, has 2 senators, and that really kind of helps spread and balance that power out. That's why we're a constitutional republic and not a true democracy on the federal level. But when you get into the states specific, it is very much representational government, and in a democracy, the majority leads. So a lot of different issues, though, that the governor has to contend with, including the questions of corruption. And this was something that was brought up last week with the Better Government Association, speaking to the Paul Simon Public Policy Institute, and really touching on some of the questions that remain of ethics and a variety of other things that haven't really been thoroughly addressed. This is David Greitzing with the Paul Simon Public Policy Institute talking a bit about
there is something
corruption.
About the culture of corruption that is undeniable about the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. A lot of it has to do with our tolerance for conflicts of interest that are not the case in other areas.
Now, the story of Mike Madigan, very high profile, and the former Speaker of the House facing multiple counts of corruption, and that's just one indication that Greising says that highlights the problems in Illinois. And Governor J.B. Pritzker, he says, made a no-show of sorts when dealing with the issues of ethics.
Governor J.B. Pritzker ran as an ethics reformer. He was basically a no-show when the major ethics reform package was being considered.
So will those things follow the governor if indeed he aims for the White House, let alone some of the other questions that have been raised by Attorney General candidate Thomas DeVore? We talked about this a couple of times last week, and I don't think it's far from over, and that's the story of Jenny Thornley. It apparently documents showing that the Pritzker administration had a role in paying out workers' comp claims to Jenny Thornley that may have been fraudulent. And I did put a FOIA request in for further communications in that particular case, but you've got Attorney General candidate Thomas DeVore asking significant questions about that particular case.
Why did they pay her the money after we'd already proven that she was not sexually assaulted? Why? Those questions need to be answered by the media. They need to be answered by the Attorney General's office, or they need to be answered by the district attorney for the Central District of Illinois and the federal prosecutor's office. Somebody needs to answer these questions, because this is the exact reason why our state is corrupt.
So still some unanswered questions. Will that follow Pritzker if he aims for the White House? And some of the indications that Pritzker is aiming for the White House is he's been going to different states and having speeches in front of Democrat Party officials. In particular, he went down to Florida and was pretty upset that one of Illinois' richest residents, Ken Griffin, has moved from Chicago to Florida. And you've got the Free Press reporting that a lot of residents have left various states like New York, California, and Illinois, seeking refuge from COVID mandates or increased amounts of violent crime or punishing tax and economic policies. And they're leaving California, Illinois, and New York, and they're going to places like Florida. But Governor J.B. Pritzker, Illinois Democrat, seems a little upset by the idea that Ken Griffin is choosing to go to a state where the taxes aren't so burdensome and the violent crime isn't out of control. We'll see how well this plays out on a national stage with Pritzker possibly making a play towards the White House. But that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because you've got Gavin Newsom from California who could be interested if Biden says no, he's not gonna run again. But with Biden, we'll talk about it a little bit later on. He, of course, has COVID. Apparently, Governor J.B. Pritzker testing negative, so he'll be out of quarantine at some point. So kind of fascinating to see all these dynamics play out. And you can always chime in live and local with Bishop on Air at gmail.com, or follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Just search Bishop on Air, and we can connect.